The clutter that fills every inch of space on a counter, shelf, and desk in this chamber is evidence of a dozen experiments and works in progress, if not more. Tomes both common and rare are stacked with purpose in such a way that makes no sense to you at first glance. One table is cluttered with alchemical equipment such as beakers, flasks, bottles, and alembics, many of which are currently sharing tasks with one another. A simple ritual circle has been laid into the stone floor in silver wire, easily adapted for various rituals, given enough time and chalk. And everywhere, there is parchment and paper. That is an excerpt from Describe, which we'll talk about in a little while, called the Wizard's Workshop. And I thought this would be fitting, as D&D has officially announced that 2020 was the best ever year for Dungeons & Dragons again. For those of you who don't know, basically once a year we kind of get these updates, and there's investor meetings and things more on the high-level Hasbro side, but for the consecutive year, so 2019 and now 2020 again, was the best ever year for sales for Wizards of the Coast. And as such, they put together some infographics. I thought it would be interesting to look through it. And I was actually brought to attention to this by kind of the PR email list. So they sent me over this to say it was the most successful year. Wizards of the Coast is proud to announce that 2020 was once again the most successful year for D&D in the franchise history. This is on the back of 2019, again also being a record year, with the legendary tabletop game continuing to grow and diversify its community, which now counts more than 50 million fans worldwide. So I'm going to go through the infographic with you in just a sec, but I wanted to talk to you again about an awesome new tool out there, Describe. You've heard me talk about Describe in the past, and I can show you here. It is an online tool that allows a very powerful team of writers to come up with descriptive box text for you to use in any of your D&D campaigns. Good for veteran and new DMs alike. They have a variety of different options for you, covering a whole bunch of different topics: maps, places, monsters, so on. If I went and I searched Wizard is how I found Wizard Workshop, and I got this whole long list of Wizard related things. And they're good friends of the channel, so I wanted to point out the pricing model real quick. Annually, you can get a places section. You can see you can pick and choose individual things if you only want monsters, spells, or so on, or get the hero subscription for $80 a year, or you can go down to monthly. And if you use the coupon code Immersion, which you can find in the description, you can get 10% off the first purchase that you make. So obviously, make the choice and get the one that makes the most bang for your buck. Thank you, Describe, for sponsoring this video. Let's talk about the infographic. So here it is, right here. Best year for D&D ever. Even though we don't have exact numbers from the TSR era, we can safely say D&D is more popular now than it ever has been in its 47-year history. Ray Winninger, the new executive producer for Dungeons & Dragons. So I'll also say that again, 47-year history. That means in 3 years, we're going to hit the 50th anniversary of Dungeons & Dragons, which I will still stick by if we're going to see a 6th edition or some sort of 5.5, 5e advanced, 5e plus. It's going to coincide with the 50th anniversary. It's too good of an opportunity to pass up, and it seems to coincide. I mean, it'll also be partially if the sales start dipping earlier, or it's also a good time. You got to do something to celebrate 50 years of the product and the hobby. So 47 years of the leading TTRPG, up 33% year-on-year growth globally, and this is the 7th consecutive year of growth. So I'll remind you that Wizards of the Coast did take over for TSR back in, I think, the 90s, 2000s. And then obviously 3rd edition was kind of their launch to separate themselves from TSR to say this is a wholly Wizards of the Coast product. But reminder that 5th edition has been out for basically, I think, 6 years. Might even be 7 years as of this summer, or it's 6 years. And then there was the D&D Next phase, which was sort of the playtesting phase before 5e officially launched. So essentially, 5th edition in its entirety has been part of this consecutive growth year by year. So clearly they're doing something right, however you feel about 5e. So let's go down and look at the community. So we can see the age range here. Let's start here at the bottom. 12% of the community is ages 15 to 19%. 24% of the community is ages 20 to 24. And then it's 18% in the 25 to 34% range, 14% in the 35 to 39, and 40+% in the 13+% in the 40+ category. This actually, a lot of this kind of lines up just what I can say personally from my own YouTube analytics, that the largest bulk of folks that seem to be, you know, people who watch my content fall in that 20 to 40 range, though there is above and below. So we can see less than 1% of other and non-binary folks. And the split, which again, a lot of folks have the stigma that it's, you know, or they used to have the stigma that, you know, no girls or, you know, non-binary folks play D&D. And obviously you can see the split is coming up close to 50-50. Again, 7 years ago, that probably wasn't the case, but the increased popularity of D&D to the point where there is over 50 million players is shown right here in the demographic spread. So that's pretty interesting to see. If we scroll down, D&D products, more players are becoming Dungeon Masters than before. Sales of DM-focused books, including the Dungeon Master's Guide and Monster Manual, all grew year over year. And it says the Magic the Gathering co-branded settings continue to be popular and are growing. So can we talk about how they're saying right here, more people are becoming Dungeon Masters, DMs focused, then give us DM tools. Give us a DM book. Stop giving us DM tools smattered in player books. Give us a DM resource. Give us DMG2. Give us the Arms and Equipment Guide, Magic Item Compendium, Spell Compendium, Rule Compendium. People want these, and if you're trying to tell me as part of your infographic for your good job D&D that more people are becoming Dungeon Masters, then stop giving us player books and adventures and give us just a DM book, a resource. Adventures are great, and you can smatter things in campaign settings like Ravenloft or Dragonlance or whatever you're going to come out with. Can all have little bits stuffed in there, but we want just a DM book. Plus, it's really great if folks don't have to go out. I mean, I get it. This is an antithesis of a business model, right? If I want all of the resources, I got to buy Xanathar's, I got to buy Tasha's. If I want horror rules, I got to go buy Van Richten's. If I want this, I got to buy, you know, I want guild good rules, I got to go buy Ravnica. Put them in a book. Charge more money. Give it a fancy cover. We'll buy it. Okay, Tasha's Cauldron of Everything topped bestseller lists in November 2020, our most pre-ordered book ever. Makes sense. It was a long time. Players wanted options, and it delivered. March 2020, an all-time peak in search interest for D&D, and then millions downloaded free materials from our stay-at-home, play-at-home hub. If you recall, back in March of 2020, when this all started, that's also, I can say, coincide with probably why a lot of you are here. My channel had just explosive growth over 2020, and I think a lot of that is because people are at home, they're searching out D&D because it's a great way to spend your time, meet new people, and you can do it remotely. It's obviously better if you can do it in person, but remote has its advantages as well. And I was covering the stay-at-home, play-at-home thing. I think it went for 10 weeks they did that, where they were releasing free resources basically every week for you to go out and be able to play for free. So that makes sense for March 2020, right at the start of the pandemic. Folks are looking for stuff to do. D&D spikes. All right, D&D Live 2020 had over 4 million views. I have my own thoughts on that. You can check my Twitch for some clipped videos of me covering that live stream because it was it was something. All right, hashtag D&D is taking off on TikTok, over 1 billion views in 2020. That's true. By the way, I do happen to have a TikTok, so if you're interested and you're on that platform, Nerd Immersion over on TikTok, there's a link down in the social media section of the video description if you want to go check that out. I try to post pretty regularly, and I do a variety of different stuff, but it's all pretty much D&D focused, so hit me up over there. 2020 saw even more celebrity players, including Comic Relief UK, Sue Perkins, Nish Kumar, James Acaster, cast of Game of Thrones, WWE Superstars, and the cast of Stranger Things. Most of those were, again, as part of the D&D Live Roll with Advantage, where they pretty much had only celebrities play, which I guess the celebrities weren't working in that time in 2020 because most things weren't filming because of COVID. And then they used pretty much the whole money for what you would normally have done to book out a big in-person venue and all that kind of stuff to just basically pay celebrities to play the game. Here's the book release the schedule rather for 2021. This is important, folks. Candlekeep Mysteries came out in March. Van Richten's Guide came out in May. And here it is. Here it is, folks. Classic settings. 1 down, 2 to go. There it is. It's right there for you. 2 more books of classic campaign settings. Dark Alliance launches in June 22nd, so that'll be the fun kind of beat 'em up multiplayer game. Later in 2021, the return of special events, D&D Live and D&D Celebration, so they're both making a comeback. Both will be things. Q3 and Q4, more TTRPG releases to be announced. And then Baldur's Gate 3 is currently in early access, and the Druids are currently available as a player character race for you to choose in Baldur's Gate 3. Where will D&D go next? Follow D&D on social media for the latest D&D news, entertainment, and games. And you can see all their social media there: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Instagram. I'm just trying to scroll through to make sure I don't think I missed anything specific. Thanks to TTRPG releases, the co-op action brawler Dark Alliance is coming out. The exciting MTG and D&D crossover Magic expansion Dungeons & Dragons Adventures in the Forgotten Realms is releasing on July 16th, and the return of special events such as D&D Live and D&D Celebration. The brand is setting the stage for yet another successful year, continuing to broaden their impact as a leading fantasy franchise in mainstream media. So there you have it, folks. This is probably the most useful takeaway from this, is the sort of layout of what the plan is. Now, we did hear earlier on that someone said they were going to be announcing the big adventure. That's the, like, because they usually do, they did Candlekeep Mysteries. They're going to do an adventure. I think they said it was going to be sometime in the summer. I guess it'll technically fall in Q3 at this point. But it says right here, classic settings, 1 down, 2 to go. I'm still sticking to my guns that Dragonlance is one of those 2. We know the Dragonlance novel is coming out later this year, the first of the new trilogy. It has to, folks. It just has to. There's no, I mean, I'm 100% positive Dragonlance is coming this year. It's classic campaign setting, right? So if we think about it, folks, let's just do a quick rundown of this. Classic. I didn't want to make this a classic campaign setting in the roadmap of D&D in 2021. I wanted to talk about the growth, but it's part of it. It was in there, so let's talk about it. 3 classic campaign settings coming in 2021. Ravenloft is out. We have that now. More coverage on that coming to the channel, and probably later tonight and the next coming days, okay? We've got that. Then we've got 2 more coming later this year. We kind of already had Forgotten Realms, and it's been pretty much everything through all of the adventures, and the sort of redheaded stepchild of Dungeons & Dragons, the Sword Coast Adventures guide, right? That was your campaign setting, really, for Forgotten Realms. They might go back and touch it again and make a new campaign setting book for Forgotten Realms, though I doubt it. So I'm thinking, because we already had one arrive in the Sword Coast Adventures guide, it was 3 classic campaign settings coming back. I don't think you can argue that the Forgotten Realms needs to come back. It's never gone away. That's been the whole setting for 5e. So if it's not going to be Ravenloft, what does that leave us with? I don't think we're going to get Dark Sun, because I don't see that happening. I'm positive one of those will be Dragonlance because of all the hype around it, the Draconic subclasses, the Draconic races, the fact that we heard Joe Manganiello tweet out somewhere that he has officially, he has like 5e stats for Draconians, right, which are a race specific to the Dragonlance world. We saw the back and forth with, you know, Hickman and Weiss about whether they were going to have the books, not have the books. Then the books are coming out. That was all a little funky, I'll admit, what was going on with all of that. But I'm positive Dragonlance is going to come out this year. That leaves us 1 classic campaign setting left. I'm going to tell you, I think it's going to be either Spelljammer or Planescape. And I might make another video on this specifically, and I might bring some folks on to provide some insight. But, you know, that we've been discussing this behind the scenes. Not anybody official with Wizards, just friends of mine. But the nature of how things have gone, Candlekeep Mysteries sold really well, and it had a ton of guest writers writing, you know, snippet adventures, right? Rime of the Frostmaiden had a ton of guest adventures. It sold really well, too. And then we kind of saw what I think is a failing, in my mind, of Van Richten's guide, where we had, like, a ton of prompts for like the 30 whatever it is other domains of dread. That's just like a blurb of information, like, you go figure out what the world is like, you do it, here's a little primary information about it. If that does well, and that seems to be where, like, making less and less to give you just basically like a book of prompts and like, here's some high level stuff you can use to go off and make your own adventure, I feel like that's a great segue for Planescape or Spelljammer. We can just give you a book with some player options, maybe some new monsters, and like, here's a high-level primer on the Far Realm, and a high-level primer on this plane and that plane, and we can give you them all in one long book, and we make it Mink's Manual of the Multiverse, and that's what it is, right? And then it's all of these little pieces, little snippets, little half-page, quarter-page blurbs about different planes or different locations, and then you go forth and you make the game that you want to play. Here's a little bit of information about it. That's my call. That's what I'm thinking. Could be wrong. Could be Greyhawk. Could be Ghost Walk. I don't know, Mystara. Throw me for a loop and really pull something out of left field. I don't know. But that's where I think it's going to go. So anyway, thank you to our good friends at Describe for sponsoring this video. Links in the description. Check the pinned comment as well. And I will put a link. I think I can just put a link to where you can go download this infographic as well. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.